skeptics and critics have assailed the claim on a variety of fronts. Some critics of the virgin conception argue that the earliest Christian authors of the Jesus mythology inserted this idea regarding his conception in an effort to give Jesus the heroic birth that was consistent with other Old Testament heroes. Remember that the first Christians were raised within the Jewish culture and religious environment, and these first adherents were familiar with the birth stories of Isaac, Moses, Samson and Samuel. These characters had irregular and unusual births. Were the early authors of the New Testament canon simply trying to create a new hero in the tradition of other Jewish heroes, who had unusual birth narratives? There are several reasons to reject such an accounting of the birth story of Jesus. Not every Jewish hero from the Old Testament had an unusual birth story. Joshua, King David and King Solomon are just three of the more obvious examples of powerful Old Testament heroes, whose birth stories were less than surprising or unusual. Jesus is often connected to David in the New Testament, yet there is no similarity in their birth stories. In addition, there is no other character from the Old Testament who is born of a virgin through the miraculous conception of the Holy Spirit. This characteristic of Jesus' conception is unique to Jesus, and follows no pre-existing Old Testament pattern. Finally, given the fact that pagan mythologies utilized irregular, supernatural birth narratives in describing the origin of their pagan gods, it is unreasonable to believe that early Jewish Christian adherents would attempt to convert Jewish believers to Christianity by inserting anything into the story of Jesus that would draw even the slightest parallel to paganism. It is unreasonable to believe the early authors of the New Testament canon were trying to create a new hero in the tradition of other Jewish heroes, who had unusual birth narratives. Yes, the virgin conception is a miraculous event, but if there is a being who created all space, time and matter from nothing, such a being would certainly have the power and ability to accomplish what we read about in the birth narratives of Jesus. The miraculous conception of Jesus is well within the power of God. There is no need to look for an alternative explanation.